And we're back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Daniel.
This is Katie.
And this is Future Neighbor. Katie.
Podcast.
All right, you saved us at the end. Happy New Year's, everybody.
Is it a little bit late?
No, we're right on track.
That's good.
This year, I promise, we're going to have a podcast at least once every 2 weeks. And Daniel, come on, Daniel. I'm looking myself in the mirror. Come on, Daniel. Once a week. Let's do it.
I think people are tired of hearing us say that.
No, they're not. Come on, Daniel. Come on. You guys got to nudge us with email and be like, Daniel, you got to be a man of your words. Publish once every week.
You know, occasionally we get like those comments. When is your next podcast coming? I'm waiting.
I know. And it shoots me right in the heart.
I know.
So I'm like, we got to do it. But the real reason why this podcast gets deprioritized is we're not making money off of it. So we have other things like YouTube or our gochujang shop or even our futuredish.com. That's all making money. But this one is just for fun. So when there's problems, like an app exploded or there's an explosion in orders or something's wrong with YouTube, all of that needs to get addressed first. Or one of our suppliers, the one that drives me crazy, that guy, oh my gosh, that guy gave me another 2 white hairs already at the start of this year. Those all needs to get fixed first. And then we sit down to have this podcast. And that's why we're always late. It's not that we don't want to have a conversation, but if we flip it around, if we really spend time into it, we can build enough of an audience to get it monetized and boost it up in our priority list. But regardless, I love speaking on here, venting, and also seeing Katie's reactions sometimes towards my ideas, which I never talk about with her for the first time on this podcast. So I enjoy it.
Well, speaking of gochujang, people are curious whether it's 100% owned by you, whether it's a full-time job for you.
We'll get to all those questions later because we've asked people on our Instagram to ask us little random questions.
We got so many questions.
Yes, thank you.
We've got a lot to cover today.
Yes, thank you for those questions. By the way, maybe sometimes you guys, I know a lot of you guys DM us on Instagram, and we're so good at answering people back because when we wake up, Katie always goes, "You phone addict," but I go into Instagram and I like to see, and Katie does the same thing, by the way. She just scrolls through and she looks at the pictures and she gets like a little, a little bit of happiness from it.
It's like my morning wake-up call.
Yeah, and we do a good job in answering most people back. But most of the times, it is Katie on Instagram. Katie gets pissed at me because I just take a look at the photos. I goes, "Oh, so nice," but then I just like,
and then he doesn't respond. And sometimes I don't know if it's like a content that requires response because it's already read.
It's marked as read.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are looking through all of your feedback. And Katie is writing something on her hand. What are you trying to tell me?
We have to put in the part. This podcast is brought to you by gochujang.
Okay.
So what is gochujang?
No, people know what gochujang is. This year, our focus, I'm actually trying to, by the way, this is our sponsored ad segment. So you can skip over this if you like. But yeah, my mom, every time I go to the States, she always asks me to buy something for her from the duty-free shop. Do you know what that is, Katie?
고추장.
No, my mom doesn't ask for gochujang. What are you talking about?
Oh, 설화수.
Yeah, my mom always asks for these skincare lotion sets from 설화수. She really likes 설화수.
This is like a premium, like a Korean
skincare
beauty
brand.
product. Yes.
Yeah. Apparently for the last 50 years, they've been doing a lot of research into ginseng and other oriental herbs and then infusing that into skincare products. And some of my mom's friends have asked me to buy...
It's like the mom's favorite.
Yeah, skincare products for them and mail them to the US.
Yeah.
So now it was a great idea. So now we're onboarding 설화수 as well as some of the more premium brands that you see on Korean department stores onto our shop. So you can check it out there. I think that's going to be a key focus for us this year. Skincare. skincare products. But it's hard to compete with some of the really big brands like Sephora, because I know they do like K skincare products.
Do they have Sorasu there?
They might have, but they sell very single items. But I think in the beginning here, we're really going to focus on gift sets. So
Yeah.
that,
And there's a lot of free samples.
exactly. I think we're giving out the latest Sorasu, I think 12
Yeah.
samples.
And all like of different type that you can try.
Exactly. So bundled skincare products, keep an eye out for on gochujang. And if you forget to, or you don't know what to get your angry Korean mother, Sorasu, I'll calm her down. Right now, let's move on.
Great job.
It's not bad, huh?
So the first thing that we want to talk about is actually adjusting to a life in Korea as a Korean American or somebody who's lived abroad for a long time.
A Korean Londoner, a Korean Afrikaner, a
Yeah.
Korean
Or just
European.
even like a foreigner.
Yeah.
Like people are curious to know how we adjusted and how our first year in Korea was like.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of people who are interested
Mm.
in trying to live in Korea.
Yeah.
I really see that a lot on YouTube, in my Facebook feeds. It might be because of the algorithm. It's recommending like a piece of content that I watch, but
I think so.
there seems to be a lot of content creators who want to try living in Korea because the spotlight from BTS and K-pop, K-wave, K-drama, it seems to build like this image about Korea that they might be perhaps,
Too rosy?
it might be too rosy. Could there be something like a Korea syndrome or a Seoul syndrome?
I think there is a little bit of that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Because when I visited France for the first time or Paris, I was like, man, it smells like piss everywhere. Like the amount of dog poop on the sidewalks, and like I just smelled like pee everywhere.
Well, but I think the one thing that a lot of people fantasize about Korea after watching so many K-dramas is, are all guys so handsome and so good looking and so tall like those they see in K-dramas? Why are you looking at your nails?
I was getting nervous. I thought you were talking. I was like, are you talking about me? But I don't think you're talking about me, because if you watch Future Neighbor, I don't think those adjectives. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, so we do have our little hiccups as we adjusted in our first year, right? Do you want to share your first few?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was coming in from, well, let me just describe my mindset. I think for a lot of people who have lived abroad, or maybe they're Korean adoptees, I think there's like this shared sentiment when you live in Korea as a Korean American or a Korean adoptee, or et cetera, is that this is your birth country, but you were raised with different cultural values. So you don't necessarily feel at home in Korea because you're never a local. You're never a Korean
Yeah.
because the way you think is different
Yeah.
and your mindset is different.
So you've lived in Korea now for like 7, 8 years?
No, I came here in 2010.
Oh, so it's been like 10 years now.
11 years. We're in 2021.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's been 11 years.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I never really spent any of like my
Adult life.
yeah, like my early getting into a job, corporate life, and like you know, like go and get it. Like I never spent that in the States. Like I never, yeah, it was all in Korea. I really
Yeah.
built my,
So you were just raised in America,
and then
your
came to-
education,
Yeah.
and then you came to Korea and started your professional like career here.
yeah. But yeah, I guess what I was saying is when I came like that, but then if you go back towards your home country, especially when I was living in the US, I was still a minority, because if you're an Asian, you're not white. So you're a minority by definition. Strangely, I felt like that wasn't my home, but as an Asian American or Korean American, Korea is not home, US is not home. Just, it's not like, I don't know where, like, I guess just home is where you feel comfortable at the moment.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable in Korea, so I guess it's my home. But I don't think that's really that important. I don't know, that was one of the first things that came to my mind when I moved to Korea, was like, what does home mean, and where is home for me?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm in the States. I can speak it, I can express my mind, but in the deep of my heart, when I see television, when I see people in government, when I see, they're all different from me. So I feel like I
Yeah,
can't.
and you don't really consume Korean media.
Yeah, I didn't. But then when I'm in Korea,
Even now, you don't. You always watch American news.
yeah,
You
because
see things in English,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean, your speaking is fluent,
yeah,
but your writing is still kind of like elementary level.
yeah. But I just wanted to bring this up because before we get into all the funny stuff and stories, but it's more of like a macro thing that, like, where is home? I don't know. If you were raised in different cultures, but I don't think I need to know. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if
You
you're
can
doing
make-
if you're doing well. If we decide to move to Spain and we're doing well and we enjoy Spain, then
Then that's your
that's
home.
your country.
Yeah.
Home.
It's what you make of it.
Yeah.
I think so.
We love Gyeonggi-do right now. This is our home. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, we have no roots here
Yeah,
in
we don't.
Gyeonggi-do.
Yeah, we have no roots. I have no roots in Seoul either.
Yeah, same.
All of our hometowns. Yours, Busan. Actually, I was born
I'm
in Busan
from
too.
Busan, so. But then Seoul is where I have a lot of like memories with you and as an adult.
Yeah, in our early adulthood, we built all our memories in Seoul.
Yeah.
So that's one home. So maybe the definition of home is it's an evolving one.
Mm.
So when someone asks you, where are you from? I always feel like obliged to tell a story. Like, oh, I was born in Korea, but I was raised in the States, but I came back, and it's and like they're like,
Now
yo,
I live
like,
here.
yeah, you're like, yo, chill. I don't need to know your whole life story. So maybe I just chill out and I just go, yeah, I'm Gyeonggi-do. But how about you, Katie? Like, what was, for me, that idea of what home means was like kind of one of my first things that crossed my mind when I moved to Korea. Like, what was your first like thoughts or some of these big ideas before we have a lot of funny stories, by the way. So, but for you, what was the biggest thought on your mind?
Yeah, I think for me it's similar. Like I used to think that Busan is like where I'm born.
Yeah.
And that's where my family is.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like kind of the most nostalgic, all my childhood memories. But then now I've lived in multiple places. I lived in London for many years, and then now I've been living in Seoul more years than anywhere else.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
No, but you spent longer in UK because you did all of your education there.
Yeah, that's almost like 10 years. But now I think I've been living in Seoul for almost 10 years.
Ah, so maybe Seoul
like
is your home.
One third of my life I've been living in Seoul.
I see.
1/3 in the UK, 1/3 in Busan. So yeah, they're all my home, I think. They're different pieces that make me feel connected.
Mm. I think that's a common thread for our millennial generation.
Yeah.
Like there's been a lot of people who traveled abroad, and like this like sense of identity and home, it's very, I think it's very evolving.
I think so.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So now to some of these stories about
People want to hear funny stories. We got so many requests, like more funny stories from you, Daniel.
No, more funny stories from you. All of these funny stories have a little bit of pain in them, which is fun to talk about now. But in the moment, I guess the pain makes it funny, described in a entertaining way. But how about from you, Katie?
Well, adjusting to like professional life here, and like unexpected like etiquette. Finding out unexpected etiquettes here and there was like really fun, and there were moments that definitely took me by surprise. So
we can start off with the honorifics. In Korea, I think more than other Asian languages, more so than Japanese. I've studied Japanese. More than Chinese. I haven't studied Chinese, but Korea has a lot of honorific language, and it's like multi-tiered.
Yeah.
So when you speak, if you speak to your parents, for example, the verbs or the sentence will end one way. If you want to, like, let's say you're talking to the CEO of a company, right? Then you take it to the next level, and the verbs will change again.
Yeah.
And the adjectives can change, and learning that is extremely difficult for most people.
Yeah.
Or-
But it's really important because like you don't want to get it wrong.
especially if you have a face like me, which means you have a Korean face, right? So this is why Korean Americans, or what Koreans call 교포s,
Yeah.
is that you look like Korean.
Yeah.
So people expect you to know the language, and if you don't,
Then you're rude.
no, it confuses locals. It's like Koreans can't understand. I don't know. You look exactly like me, yet you're talking rude to me, and you talk weird, and it's very confusing. Whereas if they saw, let's say, like a white person,
Yeah.
it's totally fine.
Totally
you get the
understandable.
You get the foreigner pass.
Yeah.
You can talk rude all day, every day. They're happy that you said 안녕하세요. It doesn't matter, right? So the thing with honorifics is that even when I was speaking, we call it 존댓말 in Korean. That's the verb for it, 존댓말. When I spoke 존댓말 with my parents were very lax about it too. So sometimes I would speak like as I was speaking to my friends, which is called 반말, which means phrasing without any honorific language in it.
Yeah.
I'll just speak 반말 mixed in
Yeah.
with 존댓말.
Yeah.
It'd be like just a mixture of it. And my parents didn't really correct me, because if they corrected me, they'd be correcting me all day.
Yeah.
So I brought that same level of speaking to Korea, and just a world of pain and confusion. Right?
Yeah.
Was that the same for you? Did you learn like
No, but I think I was overall, like, I can speak Korean and that's no problem.
Yeah.
But using Korean in a more professional setting
yeah.
is a little bit different. And especially in writing, like official documents,
Yeah.
those kind of things, like it took me a while to kind of adjust because I didn't really learn things in Korean. And yeah, even for me, I had a lot of like mistakes that I made. And like one of the kind of funny things that comes to my mind is I used to put honorifics to objects too, because I don't want to make the mistake of not using it when it should be used.
Yeah.
So I got too conservative.
I see.
So I would use honorifics to phone or to computer, like when I call it.
Like,
So
what do you mean? What?
like when I say, "Oh, 지점장님,"
That means like, hey, department head.
I would say,
Oh, excuse me.
I'm supposed to say 전화 왔어요,
Uh-huh.
which is like there's a call for you.
Yeah.
But then I would wrongly use the honorifics and I would say 전화 오셨어요. So I would 존대 the phone.
So it becomes the subject of honor.
Yeah, which is a very wrong use of it.
Right.
But then I was still very like clumsy with that at that time.
Right.
And so people would like correct me.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
these kind of things, people, like even Korean people actually make mistake of a lot. You know, when you're at shops or restaurants,
Yeah.
they do that because I think people are too cautious about not using the honorifics at the right time.
Right.
So they overuse it.
Right. You know, I had the same experience, and it was really tough for me because when I was serving my military duty, once you go into the military, you have to use the highest form because you're a private, and whenever you talk to your superiors, you have to end the sentence with 까. 밥 먹었습니까?
Yeah.
And I have never done that.
Yeah. That's the part that guys have to adjust.
Oh man, that was so tough for me because I don't even know level 1 존댓말. This is like level 2 존댓말 or maybe level 3 존댓말. So I would like talking to superiors and I'd be like, "Oh, 밥 잘 먹었어요?" And they'd be like,
anything ending in yo is like a no-no.
Yeah, you have to put ka.
Mm.
And like it's oh, this crow. It like I had to do so many push-ups, or there's a punishment where you have to put your forehead on the ground,
Yeah.
lift up your butt, and then you just put your hand behind your back. I mean, if you've seen Korean dramas, you've seen it. I've done so much of that in the military, and I'd be like, man, I just graduated, and here I am with my head to the ground because I didn't use. But as soon as I got out of the military, I forgot all of that too. It's you adjust.
But you have to use that in like maybe in meetings too, like in business meetings when you're presenting.
Depends on which industry. Oh, if you're like
Well, most of the
finance,
times you don't want to end your sentence in yo. You always want to end it in ta or ka, or like use the honorifics.
Yeah.
And it feels uncomfortable for me too.
Yeah.
And when I hear myself, it sounds so awkward, but I want to force myself to use that honorifics. So I feel like I can never get over it.
It's even like that for you still.
Yeah, I sound so weird, I think. But then I do it because that's like the standard.
So two things that I've noticed. One is, remember I think a few episodes or podcasts ago, I talked about how I have like a fear of people telling me the phone number in Korean. Like 326-0808 or something like, well, that's easy. But I think I've mastered that skill now. Because just the other day, our supplier was like, oh, can you call this person instead? And they were like, 237-4134. 이해했습니다. I was like, 네, 이해했습니다. I understand. I'll call.
You got so happy.
You know what I used to do? Because I don't want to sound like an idiot, I don't want to ask them like 3 times. I'd be like,
Did you record it?
No, that's a good idea. The second time I would just said, yeah, I understand it. And then I would go into Naver and then try to find it again.
Oh my gosh.
The second place that I know I've improved is, like in Korean restaurants, or like, let's say like a barbecue house, if you're Korean, a lot of people will call the waitress or the server, they'll just say 이모, which is it just means aunt or auntie.
Yeah.
Like I do that a lot now.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, whoa, you've turned it really into like a soul. Like
sounds really natural to you.
They always say this, right? 서울 사람 다 됐다.
Oh.
That means you've nearly become a soul person.
Like a local.
Yeah, which is like a proxy for like, oh, you become like modernized, like, you know. But my mom was like, yeah, that's a weird, I could never say that. Like, I can never, like, that's, like, how do you call someone like auntie that you don't know? I would just say, my mom would just say, 저기요 or 여기요. But
yeah. But I think it really depends on the person.
Yeah,
it doesn't really come out naturally to me either.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I would say 여기요, 저기요. But then like 이모 or 사장님, you say 사장님 very well.
Oh yeah.
You call anybody 사장님.
yeah, they get so happy.
Yeah, 사장님 basically means like
the president or CEO
head of something.
Or the owner. Yeah, whenever I see someone at
you say
any
that
business,
to even waitress or waiter.
Yeah, it makes them feel good.
Yeah.
And they talk a lot when I do that. 사장님 이거 어떤 거 마셔요? 사장님, 이게 갈비살.
In the meantime, they look like in their 20s, just doing like a part time.
No, I don't. Come on, I don't say that to people in their 20s. That's way too young. That's a little bit. All right. So besides honorifics, one more thing on this. I see myself when I see some of my friends from the States visit Korea, and their Korean is so bad. It just makes the back of my well, now I'm losing English. The hairs, they just stand. Because I have one friend, I remember he just goes, 저기요, 저기요, which means hello, here. He goes, 삼겹살 한 개 주세요. I feel so embarrassed for him, right? But that was, well, I don't think I was that bad. But it also strikes me that if you are a Korean American, Korean, whatever, living abroad, or if you have like dual ethnicities, I think it's important to know your language because your language is your culture or is your connection to your culture.
Yeah.
And my parents always said, hey, you're going to be living in the US anyway. So you don't need to master Korean because, but
you never know what happens.
yeah, I ended up
You ended up here.
Yeah.
But let's say if you never like had to come here
Yeah.
for the army, then you would have lived without learning Korean and you would have been totally fine too.
You're right.
And you would have been laughed at by another Daniel who's fluent in Korean.
Yes, you're right.
And you wouldn't have felt embarrassed at all.
Yes, but I think as you get older, you have a tendency to want to know a little bit more about your roots. And again, if you come from different ethnicities, you'll naturally, curiosity goes there. When you're young, you're always trying to fit in and, be part of whatever the majority population in your country is. But naturally, as you get older, you want to know where you're from because that's what makes you unique. So definitely, if you have kids while they're young, I would definitely stress teaching them their ethnic tongue while their brain is developing. So that way, when they come back to their country, even if it's to visit, they can have a much more enriching experience. Being able to read a menu, being able to speak. Because if you speak your language, you can also see how your parents were raised. Well, if they were immigrants or whatnot. So I guess what you're saying is right. But if you do know your second language, you can have a much more enriching life because of the potential of the second world you can tap into.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
So, well, enough preaching there. Jeez, Daniel. Get off the pedestal.
It
Sheesh.
started from Honorifics.
Now, a few stories about getting lost in translation, about Bill Murray, Lost in Translation. Remember, Katie? Scarlett Johansson, that movie? Lost in Translation moments.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Let's talk about a few. So one, for example, when I first came to Korea and I was interning at this, at the time it was a nice investment bank, and I was just like, yes, like nice suit on. And strangely, the 5,000원, which is the equivalent of a $5 bill, in the States it's just $5. There's no zeros. But in Korea, 5,000원 is 5,000. So it has a lot of zeros. And I went to the subway and I like these little desserts. In Korea, they're called Delimanjoo. I don't see them too much anymore. I think those...
No, they are.
They have them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have them at the rest stops, like the drive rest stops along the highways. But
or in the subways.
Oh, I see.
But there is a lot of transit.
Yeah. So after lunch, I happened to go through an underway subway station and I stopped and I was like, can I get one, please? I just gave her the
note.
I gave her what I thought was a $5 equivalent, right? And then she was like making it for me and she was so happy. She started to give me a sample. And I was like, whoa, this vendor is pretty nice because they usually just give a bag quickly and you're done. But she was like, 이거 뜨거운 것도 드셔보세요. I'm like, try this hot one. I was like, man, just following the Krispy Kreme model, I'll take a bite. Ooh, nice. But then I'm like getting nervous because I'm supposed to be back in the office. But she's like, just wait right there, right? I thought someone had pre-ordered because there was like at least 9 or 10 bags being opened. And she was dumping it into each one. So I was like, oh, surely that's not for me. But it turned out that I had given her I had thought what a $5 bill was. I gave her 5만 원.
Which is $50.
Yeah, which is like probably one of the larger bills in Korea. I gave her $50 to a street vendor. And each one was like maybe like $5 or less. I walked out with 12 bags of Delimanjoo. Which is like a
You're obsessed with Delimanjoo.
Yeah, and I was outside of the securities building, the bank, and I'm just like with these 12 bags of like street food. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, I can't toss this. And the lady was so happy.
Yeah.
But I couldn't be like, 죄송합니다. I'm sorry. Can I give you back 19 bags? I'll just take one. I like felt for her. So I was like, shit. So I walked up and I can't throw it away. It's too wasteful. So I walked up back to my desk and then the team was like, Daniel? And I was like, yeah, I know. And they're like, do you really like Delimanjoo that much? And I was like, no, but do you guys want to have one? And I just distributed bags of Delimanjoo to the whole team. And they're like, oh, this is a really nice intern. Wow, really thoughtful. But it was the mistake. So money counting, of course, was something to get used to in the very beginning.
Yeah.
But you just removed 3 zeros.
Yeah. But also, I think that's the time when the $50 bill maybe just came out. And at the time,
that's right.
$50 bill and $5,000 bill, not dollar, what am I saying? One bill, they are quite easy to get confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people kind of made the mistake.
And then the 팀장, which is the team manager, when I was finishing my internship with the bank, they're like, someone buy some Delimanjoo before he leaves. He really likes it. Like,
you became that guy.
Yeah, there's like this foreigner, he really likes Delimanjoo. I was like, no, please, no. Buy me something nicer. I don't want this. But Delimanjoo is good, a little custard inside.
Yeah.
How about you, Katie?
Did you actually, like in Korea, like in the morning, the Yakult Ajumma comes and drops like a yogurt on your desk?
Yeah.
Did you have that?
Okay, so Yakult is like this yogurt drink.
Yeah.
You can drink it. You can find it at Korean markets. But these ladies have the carts, these automated carts. I'm sure Katie would describe, but no, to answer your question, I shut her down because I thought she was trying to sell me something, which she was, but this lady in a hat comes to my desk. I didn't know, so.
Yeah, but it's very common, like in Korea, this yogurt ajumma always comes to office in the morning, and then like
they distribute milk or yogurt products.
And then when I realized that so when I first got into the bank, started my job at the branch office, all my like coworkers were getting one yogurt every morning, and then it's like they subscribe to it. Of course, they pay for it, and then that sounded so like professional and like adulthood. I'm like, I want to get that too.
Getting yogurt at your desk?
Yeah, because it almost looked like a sign that you are like a proper.
You've made it.
You worker, yeah.
You're a white collar worker.
I know.
Getting yogurt delivered.
And then so I remember like I was like secretly asking her behind like, how do I get that? Like I want to subscribe too. And then she was so delighted. Of course. And then like there was like she gave me a whole menu. Like you get to choose which one you want to get. And then like the first time I got my yogurt, I was so happy. It's like a moment of recognition.
Wow. So like a token of all the hard work that you put in.
Yeah.
All of the education in UK so that a yogurt can arrive at your desk. I'm really impressed by the device that they drive. So whether it's snowing, raining, these ladies are on these like carts.
Yeah.
And they're electric, and they have like a little steering wheel, right? And then inside it's like insulated, so it's either cold or is it heated too? Is there a heated version for the winter?
But usually it's not heated because it's yogurt.
Right. But they're out really early in the mornings. They have a hustle. They have a schedule. They're like a UPS.
Yeah. It's a really good business.
Yeah.
And they're saying that this yogurt ajumma has like one of the most extensive network across Korea.
Really?
More than any other like delivery companies.
Because they do final delivery. They go all the way up to the customer. They should totally advertise. Yakult should totally like sponsor like a soccer jersey, the clothes that the Yakult lady wears. How much is a monthly subscription to that? Like $5 or $10? This must be low, right? Or it has to be more than that. I don't remember,
but yeah, more than 10,000 now should be, right? Because you get one every day.
You're right. It should be closer to like
maybe
30 or 25.
$30 to $50.
I see.
Yeah, and also one thing that I didn't get used to at the beginning was people take naps at lunchtime. It's official.
Oh,
Didn't
you mean
you
in
have
Korea?
that? Yeah.
No, I never.
You guys didn't have that?
No.
People would turn off the light. the entire floor.
Really?
Yeah. And then
Wait, when you were at the bank?
Yeah. Oh, it's not when I was working at the branch office when I moved to the HQ. So from 12 to 1 is an official nap time. So they will turn off the entire light.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody would turn on some jazz music.
And then everyone's like sleeping?
Yeah, sleeping. Put their chair back and sleep.
Oh. I mean, is it comfortable enough for you to sleep as a 신입사원 or as a new member? Don't you?
Yeah, I slept too.
Oh, you sleep well though.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning I didn't. But then, yeah, later on I kind of adjusted. But that lunch hour sleep is so good. It like refreshes your mind.
Yeah.
You know how they say nap is really good for your health?
Yeah.
I think they were taking that really into like practice.
Yeah. I mean, at our place, I don't remember it because, yeah, I was part of the trading team. So if the stock market was open, nobody's like, they didn't even go out to eat. I had to order for them. Oh, remember that guy? Oh, guys, sorry, this is a tangent, but I had one guy who would, he was so terrible. He like wanted to make my life miserable. So we would order McDonald's, and then just to test me, he'd be like, I ordered honey mustard, not ketchup. Tell the delivery guy to come back and bring me my honey mustard. And
Oh my gosh. So annoying.
Oh, I want to, yeah. Oh, now you bring up the Yakult lady. I'm going to talk about the 신발 아저씨.
This one is hilarious, guys. Buckle up.
So when I was back at the internship at the first the bank, there's these 아저씨s, which just means guys or old men that come and shine your shoes, and I didn't know that, and so when
we had those guys too.
The guy, they're always in a rush, right? They got to go to every floor.
Yeah.
So they quickly get it and they have no time to wait. They're like on a mission.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got to my desk, I think it might have been the first or second day, the timing strangely just met up and the guy was like, give me your shoes. And I was like, oh, I was like, who are you? I don't even know who you are. 누구세요? And then the guy who started was like, 장난하나, which means like, are you messing with me? He's like, 신발 빨리 주세요. And I was like, I was so green. I was like, sure. And I gave him my shoes, right? And then disappeared. And then like, all right, I was like, oh my God, what just happened? I was like, did I just get scammed out of giving my dress shoes at work? I must be the biggest idiot in Korea. And I mean, because they're not, the cleaners, they're just dressed very raggedy. I was like, maybe this guy just came out of the streets and then just had a great idea. So in my like US mind, I just got hustled. And so like, I couldn't work that morning because
you didn't have spare shoes.
No, because it was like my first or second. Everyone else has these sandals.
Yeah, sandals. Yeah,
slippers that they can slip into, right?
Yeah.
At work, comfortable.
That's another thing. Like in Korea, when you get to work, people change their shoes.
Yeah.
Into some slippers.
It's the same thing in Tokyo as well.
Really?
Yeah.
But this is one thing I could never get used to. Maybe me having like lived abroad.
In UK?
Yeah.
In the US, no one would take off their shoes and slip into something.
Yeah, they will always have that extra shoes.
Yeah.
Change it, and then when they leave work, later on, they'll like switch it back.
Right. So my shoes are gone and I'm on the team and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm such
You're just on your socks?
Yeah, just in my socks. I was like, how am I going to explain this? And I was so nervous. I couldn't really do anything because I'm trying to think about it. You know how my mind works. I'm trying to think about a nice story about how I lost my shoes, but nothing adds up. It doesn't make sense. So my team came back from, I think, like 기업 탐방 or like visiting different company for whatever. And then they came back and everyone has shoes on. So I'm like, I knew it. I was the one who got scammed. Everyone else has their shoes on. And so like, I'm like sweating bullets. And then like at 11:30, I'm just thinking about what to type. And then the guy was like, all right, Daniel, let's go eat. And I'm like, I can't, I'll go later. They're like, oh, what do you mean? Come on. I mean, you're new to the team. Have some team spirit. Come on. I was like, something I ate wrong. They're like, just come. You don't have to eat then. And I was like, someone stole my shoes. And the guy was like, what? And the guy like basically shouted out to the team manager. 팀장이다. 팀장님, 누가 우리 신입사원 신발 훔쳐갔대요. Basically, someone stole our intern's shoes. Who is it? And this guy was cracking up.
This is hilarious.
Yeah, and I was like, well, he didn't look young. So the guy was like, it's all right, just give him your slippers. So I went to the restaurant in this Sirepa, and they were giving me such a hard time. If you want to work at the bank, at the very least, you have to be able to protect your own assets in your shoes. And then the guy came back before, I think around 3. He dropped off my shoes. And I was like, it's him. And they were like, oh my God. And then a second round of laughter. It's like, we're contracted with that guy. That guy he cleans the shoes. And then I asked the guy, I was like, why'd you take my shoes? And the guy, in like, Korean dad fashion, you told me to do it. You gave me your shoes. Beautiful lost in translation moment right there. So
yeah, I hope you guys don't make the same mistake.
yeah,
You heard the story.
Guard your shoes, or don't fret if someone comes and takes your shoes in an office building. They went to go clean it.
Oh, this is hilarious.
No one preps you for those experiences.
Yep, I like it because it's so like raw. You cannot lie about this kind of stories.
Very specific, right? See, the thing is, like, in my mind, I don't find it funny because I'm the protagonist in that story. But sometimes when I tell these stories, people just like laugh so much. And I just realized that, to be honest though, anyone who lives in a foreign country, I'm sure everyone has their own short list of all these stories.
Yeah, like with little things that is specific to their culture.
Yeah. I mean, talking about adjusting to life in Korea, I already told about sleeping in the Love Hotel by accident. That one's already checked off. I guess if we take it a little bit, the mikuraji.
Oh.
Are there Korean foods that you just cannot, or that you really struggled with when you're coming to Korea?
Yeah, I think the one that
I just mentioned.
Yeah, chuotang.
Ah, yeah, chuotang. What is mikuraji?
Maybe I've had it once in my childhood, but not ever since then. It's not a very commonly seen food.
Yeah. I had this team manager who I think he might have been alcoholic. I don't know. But every time he would see me, like just fresh meat, she would go, Daniel, come here. I fought with my wife yesterday. You're an intern, come with me. Let's go take a drink. And he would just complain about his wife, but his favorite food to eat, which was near the office, was chuotang.
Yeah, can you explain that in English?
Can you find what chuotang or mikura?
What is mikuraji in English?
Well,
it's a type of seafood.
Like, I enjoy Korean food, and I'm really not a picky eater. I just really eat everything pretty well. But this
mikuraji is called the Chinese muddy loach.
What? What? Chinese muddy loach? Interesting.
It's like a kind of fish that looks very thin and long.
Yeah, it lives like on the bottom of the rivers. I'm not.
Yeah, river.
Yeah. Anyway, Google Chinese muddy loach. Loach.
And it's like a stew or soup that has this fish inside. And but how they cook it is very different by region. So in Busan, they kind of 그걸 뭐라지?
They grind?
Yeah, they grind the fish, so you will not see the fish at all in the entire soup.
Yeah.
But in Seoul,
I don't think it's all of Seoul. I think it might be particular restaurants.
Upper parts of Korea.
Yeah. The place where that team manager took me, they would get the raw mikuraji and then they'll put in the hot soup and put a lid on it. And me coming from the States, and I'm just looking at this lid going, I'm like, what in the world
is happening?
I'm like, one thing is seeing this.
You have to eat it.
And it just traumatized me. And then he's just like digging into it. And I'm just like, oh, this is just vile. Like, oh, he's just sweating. He's like, come take a soju with me. Oh, and he's like, why do you like working at the bank? Oh, my kids are terrible to me. Oh, my wife is complaining to me. Do you like this? And I was like, oh.
But people who like it, especially the old people, really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever
And
food you grow
that
up
fish
eating.
apparently is supposed to be good for your stamina and stuff like that.
Every food is good for your stamina. Everything is good. I mean, the amount of food that like Asians eat to help men get boners is endless. Like someone's
And 장어.
yeah, like eel is good for stamina. Anything that helps men in bed is just
Is this just Asia?
well, I don't know. It just seems like anything that's exotic or on the endangered list is good for stamina. True or not? Is there any other Korean dish that you have trouble eating? You see, but chuotang is not like people don't go to eat chuotang that much. That's like a quote unquote old person food. Like hongo, like hongo is like the fermented. Damn it, what is that like? My gosh, what is that little thing that you pop out of the water and it has that little funny little face?
Skate.
Yeah, skate. Fermented skate. Yeah, but who's eating hongo? No one eats hongo. A lot of people like to mention that as something that they'll never eat, but no one eats that anyway.
No, hongo has its maniac people.
Yeah, more towards like 전라북도 and 전라남도.
Even in my work for one of the 회식s, we once went to a hongo place.
Really?
Yeah, even though I didn't touch.
Talking about really good food, I personally think that if you come to Korea, like book a few weeks, maybe a week in Busan and just go eat the food in Busan.
Yeah.
I think it's so much better than the food in Seoul. The price is cheaper. There's a lot more home cooked style foods. It just tastes really nice.
More local and like less touristic taste.
Less chains, food restaurants, franchises, and it's just all like local shops. Very delicious. Like this weekend we went down and we had the daegu is in season.
대구탕.
What is daegu in English?
Codfish.
Codfish.
Yeah.
Oh man, this codfish soup was so good. It was incredible.
And we went to a local fish market. It was much more fresh.
We had sashimi.
Yeah.
Like a combination plate of different sashimi and then the codfish on the side. Oh, it's amazing. I'm still thinking about that.
Yeah. It's actually funny because growing up, I never really enjoyed raw fish.
Yeah.
Even though I live by the sea.
Yeah.
But then like over the years, last few years, I started to kind of try them.
Yeah.
I'm starting to enjoy them now more and more.
Your preference for food changes, I think, as you get older. I really like natto now. Last year, I really got back into, or I retested natto, really loved it, and that's part of my diet now. Something that's related towards the work stuff we were talking about earlier is what happens when you meet someone at work and then you're still in connection with them after your work position.
Yeah, and
that's
you
a
meet
tricky
them
one.
after work.
Like what you call them.
Outside work setting, right?
Yeah. To give context, in Korea, you never really call anybody by their first names.
Never.
Yeah.
There's always a title that you have to call them by.
That's really
like
unique to Korea, I think.
대리님, 과장님, 차장님, 팀장님. Yeah, so you always call them by their titles.
Or you'll put their last name plus their title. So if their last name is Kim, it would be like Kim 팀장 or Kim 대리.
Yeah.
Right? And let's say you were friends with your 팀장.
Yeah, 팀장.
Yeah.
And then...
And his name, let's say, is Kim Nara or Nara. Let's say his first name is Nara, last name is Kim, right? After you quit work, somehow you guys become friends. What do you call that person?
So you still call them 팀장님.
Do you do that? Do you call them?
Yeah, that's expected, I think.
But you're out of that context now.
Or let's say he even retired
Yeah.
So he's nobody, right? By
Yeah.
the title, but you would still like call them 팀장님 out of respect because otherwise there's nothing else to call him by in Korea. Like, are you gonna suddenly call him like, oh, 나라씨, this 팀장님? No, right?
Okay. Then
That's like how it's usually the convention. And then even more awkward moments is, let's say I have a friend who was 대리님, and then I quit the work, but over the years she's got promoted to 과장.
Okay.
But then I'm no longer part of that company, right?
Yeah.
But then
But you
I will
met
be
her.
like, should I call her 대리님 or should I call her 과장님? Even though I've
Right.
got nothing to do with that company anymore.
Right.
So probably out of respect,
Yeah.
I would call her 과장님.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, it's happened to me before too. Some of the people that I used to work with at the bank, I always go, it was 과장님. I was like, 과장님. Like, 오랜만이야. It's been a long time. And they'd be like, I left the company. I'm doing my own business now. And then after a while, the person would be like, stop calling me 과장님. And I'd be like,
Then how would you call
yeah,
him?
I didn't know what do I call him then? Because he's much older than me and you would never call them right by their first name. But it would be weird for me to, for example, if his name was Nara, it would be weird for me to be like, 예, 다음에 봐요, 나라 씨.
Yeah.
That's so awkward, right?
Yeah.
So their title just carries. And that's something that's, I don't know, I think that's tricky for a lot of people.
Oh. Yeah. Or if you're really close, then you would have called them like 언니 or
Right.
형 for a guy.
Right. You convert. You go through that little
Yeah.
discussion about, hey, you can just call me hyung or 누나 or actually no, not 누나.
I don't think you usually call Duna.
Yeah.
It just sticks with the same gender only.
Yeah, but we have to break down for people who are not following because they don't know Korean. So if you want to make it personal and that guy that I'm talking about, I left the company, for a guy, he would just say, hey, stop calling me by that title. Just call me hyung or hyungnim,
Yeah.
which means older brother,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But what you're saying is if this person that I'm talking about was a girl,
Mm-hmm.
but I could call them Duna.
But Duna has that more
Big
of
sister?
a romantic nuance. As well as for me to call a guy oppa feels so weird.
Yeah.
So in my previous work, I actually used to call, there were actually 3 older women,
yeah.
and 2 of them, I used to call them 언니 when we were just private, like when we were one-on-one or just having lunch together, even while I was working there.
Yeah.
And because I felt close to them, and I think our age gap was around 10 years age gap, but I still felt like they were close enough for me to call them 언니. And I think girls usually like that because they feel closer, and yeah, it feels good. But then there was one other woman who was much older, maybe 20 years older than me. But then I couldn't, that 언니 word never came out of my mouth.
So what did you call her?
I always like call her respectfully 차장님.
Oh, you stuck with the company title.
Yeah. So I could tell that it would be a little bit, there would be awkward moments because I would call the other women 언니, but I would always call her 차장님.
You're right.
But then I would never call the other man oppa, no matter how close.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. You wouldn't ever call oppa.
Because that sounds so out of place.
That
I don't know how to explain it, but to call...
you can give some romantic vibes. Like
Yeah.
oppa, like endearing. It's too... You're right. For a woman to call someone that they're not in a relationship with, but from a work context, to then call them oppa. Well, it depends on the person. They could pull it off. I don't know.
I don't know.
This
It always has that a little bit of like maybe flirty or a little bit romantic, a little bit inappropriate at work setting.
Yeah.
I don't know. These are the things that come to my mind.
Yeah. But what you're saying is true because I can never call that from someone that I knew at work, and then now we meet them outside of work, and I call them Duna. Oh, they would be like, oh, why are you calling me that? Yeah. But then, yeah, that's strange. It's something you have to like navigate kind of
Yeah.
case by case.
But interesting because usually in IT industry,
Yeah.
like where I'm working
Yeah, as a programmer now.
as a programmer, the companies got rid of the titles.
Okay.
A lot of these companies did. So
Uh-huh.
you call them by just their first name.
Korean first name or like an English
Korean first name. So like I would call like, I don't know, 민수님. Let's say I
you
actually
put
call
님.
my 팀장님 by their first name and always put 님 at the end.
Right.
And it goes all the way to the CEO level. So which is quite revolutionary given all these like histories with the work ethics and then honorifics in Korea.
Right.
But this was also a measure put in to more like make it less hierarchical.
Yeah.
And more like a flat organization in Korea.
You're right. Now I'm connecting dots because when I used to do consulting and we would work with the IT companies, they would always ask, what do I call you? Because like consultant name is too long. Right?
Yeah.
And so they just ended up calling me Daniel Nim. And they were like, just give us any title so we could just call you. But at our firm, because we were working for a European firm, we don't have these like strict titles that translated to Korean. And so, yeah, that's why they would. I remember one person who was a new person at the firm we were consulting. She would call me Daniel Consultant Nim, and I'll be like, oh my god,
that's so verbose.
That's too much.
Yeah.
So I just told her, call me Daniel. But then she would never call me because I didn't put the word Nim, and that's disrespectful. But I'm telling you, just call me Daniel. But that must feel uncomfortable for her, even though it feels comfortable for me because she's being disrespectful. But I'm telling her to be disrespectful, which she shouldn't be, right? This gets confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we share it with you because that's how a lot of Koreans think. So
at the beginning for me, like, when I moved over to the IT industry, calling people who are older than me, senior than me by their first name was very awkward and definitely required a period of adjustment. Yeah. But now I'm very used to it, and it just makes everything easy because you don't have to worry about the title. And actually, in Kakao, you have to come up with an English name. So they call you by English name in Kakao.
Right. That way you don't even have to put the Nim.
Yeah.
You just call, hey Bob, or hey Sarah.
No, I think they still call Nim.
Oh, Sarah Nim?
So, Sarah Nim or Pop Nim or Michael Nim. Joy Nim.
Yeah. Nim, for people who are following along who don't know Korean, is just... it's a slight honorific.
Like sir?
Yeah, sir something. Or Mr. Maybe Mr. or Mrs.
Yeah.
This was interesting. A little bit taste of cross-cultural.
Also Korean one-on-one.
Right. Right. Well, we hit our 1 hour mark here. Very entertaining discussion.
We have a lot of questions that we haven't covered that are really worth talking about.
We'll cover it in the next one. What do you think?
Part 2. We'll do a part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah.
We'll answer all the questions.
All right.
Everybody, we wish you a great start to the New Year's. What is this new year is what animal?
소띠. Cow.
It's the ox.
Cow.
It's the cow.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's. Sorry, guys.